We'll handle the analysis over here. How about that? Let's start with the pick ban, though, after CLG picks up their first win in rather consistent fashion. As Kobe mentioned, they're now 3-0 against Flash Wolves in this tournament, so that's going to feel good. But initially, when we saw the GP ban come out, I know there was some hesitation around that one on the side of CLG.
Yeah. I think that when the Lucian was taken away and then like the Maokai was banned, CLG were kind of thrown through a little bit of a loop there.
Yeah. CLG's first picks when they've been on blue side this whole tournament have actually been very fast. And just even looking at the body language of Zix and the fact that they waited a long time for that Rise pick, it looked like they were surprised. And I don't even think the first pick Rise was that optimal.
Yeah.
But then when Flash Wolves comboed with the Azir Soraka, I think CLG got all of that momentum right back.
They were gifted it back.
This is the problem, right? When you play Soraka, you are pretty much locked into a composition that is going to kite back and look for sustained fights and then pick your moment to go aggressive. When I look at this Flash Wolves lineup, I'm like, okay, cool, that makes somewhat a lot of sense because they do play the scaling game very good late game. However, against a Rise, what Rise wants to do is 1-3-1. He takes teleport, he wants to pull your mid laner across the map. Generally, mid laners cannot 1v1 against a Rise as the game goes on, so you're forced to put a top laner against him. And then the Azir just means that they have no one else to answer what is going to be a top lane echo as the draft progresses. I think that it wasn't a bad draft out of the Flash Wolves, but it was a very narrow draft. Like, they had one win condition, which was scale and team fight. And CLG had so many more options on the table.
Yeah, I really think they should have taken the Echo in their first rotation. I mean, MMD has been great on this champion. They fell behind so fast, so quickly, and I don't like this super passive game from the Flash Wolves where they don't try to punish any players and just try to sit and scale. They needed some aggression and some playmaking ability, especially from Sword Art.
A little bit of refueling happening on your screen there on the side of CLG, getting ready for game 2, discussing what they might change moving forward. I know Spawn's looking like he wants to jump in, and then Jat, coming to you.
Yeah, and then the next problem was the swap back from Flash Wolves to me actually made zero sense. The reason being is if you have a really strong mid laner, you want to give him half of the map to play towards. Like, you know, Maple, if you hug bottom half of the map, you can go to town, and we're going to have your back. What happened instead is that they gave over complete river control, and Maple just had to sit back at his turret. I mean, then they invade the blue buff. All of a sudden, Azir can't shove out at all. There's nowhere for this Elise to go. So I think that target on the mid lane that Flash Wolves were supposed to set up just didn't come through.
And I think Flash Wolves is in a bit of a bind now, because if we think back to their last game they played in the group stage, it was Afro's Soraka versus the Bard from Flash Wolves, and now they played the flip of the matchup. So either they have to change their bans around or they have to play completely differently around those champions. But you would think if they had a different thought about those champions, they wouldn't have early picked the Soraka, because they had internal confidence that they would have been able to pick that against Bard. Otherwise, there's no reason you pick that early. But then they still ended up losing their early turret after swapping backwards. So I think that's really troubling for Flash Wolves throughout the rest of the series.
I was going to say, some scary things kind of presented themselves to us in this first game. One of which is that. The second of which is that CLG is saying, hey, don't forget, we can still play 1-3-1. So beyond, like, hey, the fact that we've come into this tournament and we've shown we can team fight, they're now saying, hey, don't forget we have this other skill set.
Yeah, and you see how the CLG played it. When other teams pushed on mid, a lot of the teams like RNG would just go up and try to like surround them and get the flanks on. But CLG said, hey, we're just going to let our 2 side lanes push all the way to your inhibitor turrets, and you have to make the next move. So really disciplined by CLG there.
Right, almost viewing that as an acceptable loss, saying we will hand over a turret so that we can take one back. Yes, losing your second tier, a lot of people have a fear, second tier mid turret, a lot of people have a fear of that and they want to engage on that fight, but CLG fine to let it go.
Yeah, and this is more of the CLG I thought we'd get in MSI. Rather than the team-fighting brawly ones, it would be the coordinated 1-3-1s that have low-kill games. And the Rise with the Echo split push reminded me a lot of CLG series against Team Liquid over in the NA playoffs, where they were able to play clean. They didn't even need to do double teleport on the same ward because they just crushed the split push so heavily.
Yeah, ultimately crushing the split push set them up for the one major team fight that they won in the mid lane 27 minutes in, 5 for 1 in the mid lane that then nets Baron on the back end of it.
And I think this shows us the best of both worlds from CLG, because yes, they go to a 1-3-1 and they're able to control the map, but as soon as they go into this team fight, they just do not hesitate on their calls anymore. You can see straight away, Afro started off with a great ultimate, and then their target selection, which was called out, was really good. I mean, He zones 3 members on the top side of the fight, and they're just able to continually chase out MMD with everyone else.
Yeah, and I think one critical thing here as well is just Stixxay's willingness to still hit the tank, even with the Soraka on the team, knowing they're going to stack up enough damage. And if MMD is not willing to go in, no one is going to be willing to go in, so they can continually just kind of move in, get more and more and more damage off of, and just space and target select the team fight extremely well. As soon as everyone's low, Darshan can jump in the back of the fight, and the timing and discipline of Xmithy's ultimate right there on Kindred was perfect to clean up the ace.
And I'm going to restate something that I said. Like, I honestly think that Xmithy might be the most underrated player to ever come to an international tournament and be a great jungler. Like, there are some really good junglers at this tournament. I mean, Blank, when he's on form, very good. MLXG showed that he was world-class. Kasa has always been a world-class jungler. And Xmithy just continually flies under the radar and gets very little respect, but is a really friggin' good jungler at the moment.
Well, I know our good friend Azael is at home saying, I said it a while back, and Skara as well saying that Xmithy is very underrated. So they're echoing your sentiment, and he's proving it here on this stage. Now I want to look forward to our next game of the series, because CLG, again, we've talked about the confidence level, the fact that they're now 3-0 against Flash Wolves in this tournament. They're going to feel good moving forward. We stay on the same sides. Clement, I'm coming to you first. What would we like to see out of Flash Wolves in order to maybe turn things around here going into game 2?
I think the Azir pick is actually fine, but they don't need to take it so early in the draft. Get MMD on something he's more comfortable with. Don't let him fall behind 30 CS at the start of the game and give Darshan like what he does best at, like split pushing. You have to beat him in the team fight and at least stay even with him. I just think they messed up a little bit of a draft. They were too hasty in getting the picks that they think they would secure the game with. Like Azir in the group stage, 3-0 for CLG, 3-0 for Flash Wolves. So they thought that was too important. I think they were a bit hasty with it.
All right, Spawn, what are your thoughts there?
I really think that you have to give Kasa something that scales. I think that NL has been inconsistent at the best of times, and that if they really want to be able to get to the team fights, Kasa has to play a pivotal role. So get him on a damage threat later on in the game. I don't really like the Elise. And I also think that maybe their support player, Sword Art, needs to have engaged, because they follow up very well behind Sword Art, similar to how RNG do with Mata. And that can be a linchpin that the team falls back on when things go wrong.
Yeah, I think Flash Wolves needs to be more cohesive. You look at what they banned with Maokai and Graves, then they still got 2 losing matchups there with Kindred into Elise and Echo into Poppy. So what are you doing with those 2 bans if you're going to still get the bad matchup? They have to make that better.
All right, well, we'll see what they decide to do as we come back from our break. With the series at 1-0, we're going to step away. We'll be right back with Game 2 between CounterLogic Gaming and the Flash Wolves as MSI 2016 continues right after this.
Oh. That's why it's
Whoa! And now over the wall, tries to heal himself up and stay alive. Flash is back. He's already taken down Afromu, and it's the who he teleported. Rashawn deep under the turret. Chrono Break is there, but it's not necessary just yet. As they continue to close in on kills, they continue to sing the praises of their teammate.
There you go.
Coming out strong in the beginning of this game, 31 minutes in against Flash Wolves with quite the composition from both teams out of Champion Select.